Impact Podcast. We are here. Can you believe it's December already? I can't, but we're here. We're here. So I'm so excited about today's guest. I don't know about you guys, but I know I've been impacted by childcare insurance this year. I know that there's been a lot of conversations in the state that we reside in, Pennsylvania. And so when I saw the work that Samantha Phillips was doing, I was like, we need to have her on the podcast. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and allow Samantha to introduce herself and share some information about who she is, where she's from, what she does, and then we'll do our normal Impact Podcast magic. Samantha.
Thank you. Y'all, I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm so glad that me being as vocal about everything as I had made you reach out, because it is a big issue right now with just with insurance in general, but it seems to be impacting childcare centers really hard. Just a little bit about me. I specialize in insuring early childhood education centers. It's about 98% of my clientele. And I love working in this industry. You have really big hearts and you're just good humans. So it's fun to be able to work with people you enjoy working with. And most of my client relationships, it's more of a family type than, client insurance agent. Relationships are really important to me. So I love my people and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
All right. So let's get started. First round of questions. We have many because earlier this year,
questions.
This year or last year, we were a part of a symposium type thing where a lot of providers were expressing challenges with the insurance companies, with new regulation and increase in the cost to be the boss and play in this industry. So can you speak to the trends and what's leading that and what's kind of happening around the world as it relates to insurance for early childhood programs?
There is a lot to unpack there. I wish I could explain why it's happening. I have my speculations. The answers that I'm being given from the company side are very vague, and I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, so we're not going to chase and go down that rabbit hole, but the math ain't mathing. You know what I mean? Like the answers that I'm being given do not justify what's taking place at all. The primary reason that I'm being given for so many providers exiting this space is that, childcare isn't profitable, or insuring childcare isn't profitable. If that's the case, then you would increase your rates. But what we're seeing so much of is companies just leaving and deciding not to insure childcare altogether. So that part doesn't make any sense to me. Now with the premiums that are coming out right now, you've got this bottleneck effect, right? So I think we've lost like 5 different companies that did insure childcare just in the last quarter alone. So with the companies that are left, they're taking a look at that. They're getting an increase in submissions because with so many fewer companies right now that are even quoting childcare, you've now got just a few that are getting everybody's request for quotes because you guys need insurance somewhere. So the providers that are still left in this space have been doing it the longest. Your Philadelphia, Markel, Great American are the 3 biggest players that I know of in the space, and have also been underwriting childcare for such a long time. They've also taken the greatest hits because they've been in the industry for so long. So they've seen the more adverse losses, higher abuse claims, that sort of thing. And so now that they've been playing in the space so long, they're looking at their current book of business, getting off anything that does not look pretty, anything with a claim or multiple claims. They're sending out non-renewals. I feel like Philadelphia and Markel is getting off every account that is not just squeaky clean. If you have licensing violations, insurance companies are really cracking down on that because they're looking at your citations and using it as a means to determine, well, how risky are you and how much more likely are you to have a claim just based on that alone? And we all know there's licensing side of the story, and then there's the truth. That's we can have a whole nother recording just on that one topic alone. But your few companies that are left are definitely increasing their premiums, but not just that, they are changing their criteria. So they are looking for very specific accounts that meet, almost like fitting an elephant in the eye of a needle, because like Markel, for instance, you only qualify for their program if you less, 3 autos or less, and
wait, repeat that. You went out. You got to repeat that. You said
so
you only
Markel
qualify.
Markel is a company you only qualify for if you have 3 locations, so 3 centers or less, and 3 autos or less. But you also have to have a high average daily attendance to your capacity. So you have to be like within 90% of your license capacity for you to qualify for that program. So if you don't meet any of those 3 criteria, you automatically are not going to get a quote from them. It's going to be an instant declination. And that's just one of the companies. Each of the companies that are still in the space have their own very specific things that they're looking for to be able to quote you. And it rolls out the majority of providers everywhere.
Okay, so wait.
I just gave you lots more questions to
ask. Wait. Just wait. So if you are a new provider coming into this space, how likely are you to be able to get insured?
Church Mutual, Markel, Philadelphia, who else? None of them will take new ventures. None of them. So right now, the only company that I have that is willing to quote new ventures, if you're a brand new childcare center, Next Insurance, which is like a InsureTech platform, it's not catered to childcare. They have some coverage. It's not for your more well-established programs. They're not my favorite, but right now they're basically a savior for new providers because they're the only insurance company. Every other company that has been in this space for a while wants to see that you have some established insurance history and that you know what you're doing before they're willing to give you a shot.
So I have a lot of questions, and of course, because of the lack of time. But they're here in Pennsylvania. We were with the insurance. We were in a meeting with the Insurance Commission, and they talked about regulated insurance companies versus unregulated insurance companies, right? So we were working with City Council about these ridiculous increases in insurance claims, right? So can you tell us a little bit, how does that look like in Texas? Do you have, or where you work at, or maybe with other providers in other cities, have you had the experience of working with regulated insurance companies versus non-regulated? And how can we get around that?
So I'm assuming by regulated versus non-regulated, you're talking about the admitted market versus non-admitted.
Yeah.
So I regularly work with non-admitted companies when I have to. So non-admitted companies and surplus lines is there primarily to insure the things that no one else wants to, or that companies view as too risky. So if you can't find a company from your standard admitted markets like Philadelphia, Markel, what used to be McKee, those are all companies in the standard market. If you cannot get a quote from them in the standard market, well, then your backup is surplus lines or the non-admitted market, because they can quote. They can also, it's usually at a higher cost, but it's necessary in some areas like Florida, California, South Carolina, coastal areas, really coastal areas, because insurance companies don't want the property exposure due to hurricanes, tornadoes, areas like Texas and Colorado where there's a significant wind tail exposure. So it's not uncommon to have to work with non-admitted companies at all. And they do have great programs. but it's just not our preferred. And the reason being is that your non-admitted companies are not, when he was saying regulated, there is no state guarantee fund. So if you had a policy with a surplus lines company, they are not backed by the state's guarantee fund. So let's say you have a significant property loss, that's who carries your property insurance. If that company that was supposed to pay your loss went bankrupt in the midst of that claim, you're just out of luck. There is no government backup or help to assist with that. Versus your admitted companies, there is state guarantee fund assistance. So that's the biggest difference in Gamble with working with regulated versus non-regulated, as you put it in the beginning, is the absence of the state guarantee fund to step in and make sure that your claims are paid just in case a company becomes insolvent in the midst of that. But some areas don't have a choice. They have no other option but to use a non-admitted company due to whatever their exposure is. There was something else that I wanted to, as far as working with those companies, it is becoming even harder for childcare programs. I work really closely with all the underwriters that I have and learn a lot about what it is that they look for. Even my surplus lines guys are struggling to find companies willing to quote childcare. And I'll give you an example. The one quote that I was able to find for a provider about a year ago took her premium from $35,000 to $235,000. Before that, the backup option was $430,000 to $600,000. That was the pricing indication I was given. And I'm like, there's no way that that's sustainable. It would close doors.
And with that being said,
so especially like discrimination, right? Like,
right.
Is that, are we able to say that? Because it sounds like it is discriminatory in regards to the industry that we are in. Is that fair to say, or what is it that we can say to where so we can advocate? Because we are required to have insurance. We want to serve children. We want to do the work, but we cannot if we don't have insurance. And it sounds pretty unfair. It sounds like price gouging. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it also sounds like something we need to take on to Capitol Hill, because this is legislation right here.
Yeah. And so the problem with that and the advocacy behind that is it's going to take so much time to get any kind of movement and action. And this is a crisis right now. And my biggest fear and why I've been so loud and trying to basically scream from the mountaintops, like, this is what's coming, brace for impact. I'm one agent. I've been speaking with other agents that specialize in childcare, and they're seeing it too. I've had agents that do the same thing I do coming to me asking if I can help with some of their programs. But the more voices, we definitely need to get involved from an advocacy standpoint. We may be able to approach it from a point of discrimination. I mean, some of the declinations that I've received, I had a declination the other day for religious affiliation. Pretty sure that's a protected class. How are you able to decline somebody looking for quotes based on that? So I really feel like there's a lot of there's not accountability when it comes to insurance companies and definitely underwriting practices.
I have one final question because I have to actually go off to another meeting, and I'm so sorry to miss you guys because this conversation is so juicy. I'm wondering, what is the Office of Child Development or your licensing unit in Texas doing, or maybe in other cities that you work with, to help the providers with these insurance hikes? Is there any conversations happening at licensing level where they're saying, okay, this is a problem, we're requiring this amount of liability insurance for our providers, and we haven't had a raise? I know a lot of different cities haven't received any raises or any additional monies to their budgets, right, to be able to kind of soften that blow, right, of what's coming or what's already been here. Because I already got hit. Leah already got hit. There's a lot of providers here in Pennsylvania getting hit. So I'm wondering if there's any conversations with your licensing or other licensing units about what's happening, because I feel like we're bringing this up as an advocacy through the voice of ECE. And, we've had these meetings with the legislators, with the insurance commission. We brought in a whole bunch of people to get these conversations going. We also invited, the deputy secretary to our licensing unit to join us in these conversations. I'm wondering what other states are doing.
So I'm not aware of anything right now that's happening with our state licensing association or advocacy as it pertains to insurance. And the reason for that, and other states as well, the reason for that is up until, I would say, September, providers thought that this was just isolated to either their county or their state or maybe the age of their building. So nobody really recognized that this is a national issue to be able to start early enough to bring that to light. So this is a very, very new, very fresh. The increases, the ridiculous increases that I've seen that are, upwards of 10 to 20,000 per renewal, really hit heavy just a couple months ago.
Yeah. Wow. So here's my question. I understand what's happening. However, and I understand what you said as well in terms of legislation long term. There are people all across America in all different places, not just the person that's, working within that 9 to 5 window. You have nurses, doctors, lawyers, judges. You have people across all, industries who have their children in childcare that need quality childcare programs. So in terms of the right now and the advocacy piece, we have to come together somehow to approach these insurance companies from a united front across industries to say, this isn't a childcare problem. This is an America problem. One day without childcare is a domino effect. And if quality programs are unable to provide childcare due to lack of insurance, it's going to be a domino effect, and everyone is going to be impacted by it, because people who can afford a nanny still will be impacted by people who cannot and can't get to work. So I think in our raising this, we need to look at it from this broader perspective and include other voices to this conversation, because it's not just about the child care owner and the child care teacher. This is a global issue, and we need global voices, or we need to set up something else where other people can come into that space, and maybe there is a cooperative that is now formed to offer insurance specifically to child cares. And so maybe we need to start working with banks. Whoever is funding these insurance companies, maybe we need to go directly to the funder, the financier, to say we need to start some type of collaborative, cooperative organization to fill in the gap and solve this problem.
Yeah. So I love how you said it's definitely an America problem, because you're absolutely right. It is a domino effect. And my biggest concern right now is that providers that are not going to be able to afford these renewal increases are going to have to close their door. And by the time people that are in a position to take action and make change, it's going to be too late. It's just going to be too late. I did reach out to Child Care Aware of America because I wanted to make them aware of this issue. So they have started collecting data. They're reaching out to their smaller resource offices in different areas to try and collect information on who all has been impacted, what complaints are they receiving. Just because if we we can't approach it as just, the four of us, for instance. Well, this is a trend that we're noticing. We need more of that information. We need hard data to be able to show it's not just for people. This is, hundreds of thousands that are affected. So definitely finding a way, if you get an email from Child Care Aware of America or a survey or something of that nature. Also, insurance rests with the state. Insurance is regulated by each state. So if you know who your state representative is, I'd recommend contacting them. It's going to fall on deaf ears for probably several contacts until they start getting information from more than a few people at a time. And somebody just recently sent me a list of all the state contacts. So I'm trying to sort through that now and figure out how to get it in a way that it can be distributed, so that way we can actually make that more impactful instead of just it sitting in my Facebook Messenger right now. My immediate focus has trying to be make providers aware of what's coming, what they can do now to start setting funds aside, delay any projects that you have, because here and now, there's not an immediate solution. Whatever comes up, the risk pool is kind of what you touched on. There are risk pools in place for different types of things. Flood insurance, for instance, is a risk pool. Work comp has a risk pool. So you have to, if flood is required by a financial institution, or if work comp is required by the state, which it is in every state but Texas, because Texas is weird, there are funds available and insurance companies available as regulated by the state that require that those companies offer flood insurance and work comp if people can't find it anywhere else. So we may be approaching where something like that has to be set up for child care centers as well, but that would be years in the making. Definitely contacting your state representative, make noise. That's all I've been trying to do to raise awareness and let people know this is not a onesie-twosie situation. It's a national issue right now for providers.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I know, if I could be honest, I was hearing about this crisis before it impacted me. And sometimes I think we sit in the space of, oh, okay, I'm aware, but it hits different when you become someone who is impacted. So don't be me. And I say that luckily it wasn't too bad. But again, we were doing surveys and everything. And at that point, I didn't have much to say. I completed the survey, but what it seems like, and tell me if I am correct with this, is that many people don't know that it's going to impact them until renewal time. And that's what happened. It was like, well, I still have my insurance. I'm still with Philadelphia Insurance until I get an email saying, we're not going to renew. Here's what was interesting though. And could you shed some light onto that? You did a little bit in regards to, so initially the email was, we're not going to renew. And then it referenced violations. And I was like, what violations? Like, I know we had, they were like two minor. It was kind of like emergency contact signature, and it was a little rust on a bathroom divider. We had to paint it. So I was like, are you telling me that we are no longer going? But then the more that I had to ask my broker, then I found out that they were leaving the childcare market, and I was like, well, why didn't they say that from the beginning? And then after that, this is another thing I want to ask. I know it's like a loaded question statement, but the applications that I received felt a little discriminatory. And I was like, one quote wanted me to change my ratios. So in Pennsylvania, 1 to 4 for infants, 1 to 5 young toddlers, so on. They wanted me to have
2 employees per room.
Exactly. And I said, absolutely not. No, I will not. Next. Then it asked about special needs children that we served. And they wanted to know, what special needs children do we have? What services do they receive? And that felt discriminatory, because if we turn away children who have special needs, then we are we're practicing with
Discriminating.
discrimination. Exactly. But it felt like the questions would impact us negatively if we said, here's who we serve. How can we navigate that? First of all, I believe it's awareness, because I was able to look at it and say, I will not, which is unfortunate because you may have people who don't have wiggle room, or they don't have the ability to pay for increased premiums, or just even be aware that they can say no. So what would you say to providers to prepare themselves, to advocate for themselves, to be aware of what is okay to be asked, what is not? What should providers do once they're getting these applications, these renewal applications that may not feel right?
Okay, so there was a lot there. As far as the violations, so I coach and teach all the time on control the narrative. So when it comes to approaching your renewal, and actually let me back up. So you're absolutely right. Everybody is thinking, well, okay, I'm sorry that that's y'all's issue, but it's not my issue. And the problem with that logic is most agents, especially if you're with the guy down the street, or, you know, a parent or an aunt or somebody local that doesn't specialize in childcare, they may only have 1 to 2 companies that will insure childcare before you start looking in the non-admitted or surplus lines market. So what I see a lot of agents doing, and why they're not raising more attention to this, is because they're scared, one, that they might lose clients if they become too vocal about it. Because as your agent, if I come to you and I say, I don't know that I'm going to have an insurance company for you, what are you going to do? You're going to find an agent that you can make sure has something for you. So I'm not like other agents. I'd rather you have insurance than have to close your doors, whether it's with me or not. The second thing is, agents will continue to try and work in the background to find you a solution. The problem with that is, if you, especially agents that don't specialize in this space, to have markets and know kind of what the landscape is to who they can approach, what happens is they're sending out all these applications to companies, not knowing what they're looking for, and just getting one decline after another, after another, after another. So the reason that you shouldn't wait and just expect that this is going to happen to you and start preparing for it now, is because you won't know until you get that non-renewal notice. And by then you're already out of half the time. I've been telling people to start 4 months early before your expiration date. So if your expiration is April 30th, guess what? You need to be starting this month. Just trying to figure out what to do. Try and find another agent that does have access to companies that can help you. But don't wait, because you're going to get stuck, especially with a non-specialist agent that is going to try and find something for you. And then in the final hour, when you get that email saying, I'm sorry, we've tried everything we can't find anybody willing to insure you. And it's now 7 days before your expiration date. And you're thinking, what the heck am I going to do? Do not think that it's not going to happen to you. Start 4 months before your expiration date. And I've got a whole presentation on things that you can do in that 4 months prep. Companies to be looking for, who state specific. I actually have that pre-recorded. So if we want to talk, another time so that you can get that out to your audience, I'd be happy to share, but it's really informative. And then on the special needs thing, it really is a catch-22, because you cannot answer dishonestly, because all the legal jargon on that last page, talking about fraud notice and awareness, is basically saying to you that you are required to answer all of these questions truthfully and honestly, or you jeopardize your coverage. If the insurance company, if you were to answer no to serving special needs children, and the insurance company was to find out that you did, you've now answered untruthfully, and may potentially be dropped for that. So you can't answer untruthfully. However, it does feel discriminatory, because I can tell you right now, I know of several insurance companies that are like, not it, like they don't want to insure programs that provide special needs care, even if it's just I have one program that is inclusive, and I have one company, only one company that I know of that will insure an inclusive program. That's her only option. So if we ever reach a point where they decline, that's an issue, because I don't know where else I'm going to place her. But you're absolutely right. And some of those questions feel like they're discriminatory, because there are the whole point of the application is for an insurance company to determine, do you fit their appetite? And if you answer yes, you serve special needs, for a lot of companies, you don't fit their appetite, and you'll get a declination for it. And then as far as advocating for yourselves, you've got to control the narrative. Violations, if you have any kind of violations that could pose harm to a child, the rest thing I don't think was a big issue. The other one, what did you say it was for?
An emergency signature.
Okay, so I mean, they could have painted the picture that because you didn't have the emergency signature, that was somehow could potentially cause harm to a child, and you not being able to get a hold of the parent to seek medical attention, or who knows what the thought process there is. But controlling the narrative when it comes to licensing violations. Background checks is a huge one, especially repeat offenses. If you've received the same citation more than once, when the insurance company looks at that, they're perceiving it as, you obviously don't care enough to correct this, that you've now allowed it to happen twice. Things like broken or protruding parts on playground equipment, or missing fence panels, or, we all get traumatized by the videos that we see that catch media attention when toddlers are running across the street or are found across the street. Well, guess what? That happens because licensing compliance was not adhered to that allowed that to happen. So that's why insurance companies are cracking down so much on the licensing violations. So what I recommend for advocating for yourself in regards to licensing is be prepared with a write-up. Okay, yes, this happened. What have you done since then to keep it from happening again? How have you retrained staff? Have you built it into now a quarterly or semi-annual training just to make sure that it doesn't happen again? Did you revamp your SOP to build this into procedures from now on? You can't fix the past, but what we do want to show, and what will help you as the applicant, is showing, we're sorry it happened, but this is what we did about it. And this is how we're going to make sure it's not going to happen again in the future. Also,
Sam, I want to, I want to just jump in here. We have to come to a close. How can providers get in contact with you? And if you can provide us with the video so we can send that out, so they'll have this information. But number one, thank you. We definitely want to bring you back on. But more importantly, we really need our listeners to be able to get in contact with you so that you can help them strategize what is going to be the best outcome for them in terms of looking for another carrier. Mm-hmm. So what's your contact information?
Do you want me to drop that in the chat or just?
Yes, please.
Speak?
Yeah.
Both. You can do both.
Share. I'm going to put all of it in the show notes and everything to make sure everyone can contact you. So if you give me the best contact, I will definitely share that and connect with you to see what resources we can share with the listeners, which would be phenomenal. Like Obiama said, would definitely love to have you back. We need more time. There's so much more we need to talk about that we're just not aware of. And I think what Obiama raised in regards to advocacy is huge, especially right now. We need to get our licensing right. If they're going to require us to do something, we have to be able to have the means to do it. So we need something done, and I think we need to put our heads together. But thank you so much for your time. I'm so sad we don't have more time because we could be on here for another hour. But thank you for taking your time out and coming to have this conversation with us and sharing such invaluable information. So is there anything you would like to wrap up with and tell listeners, or something that we all just need to walk away with?
Yes. So I'm going to plug my Facebook page. It's Sam Phillips, Child Care Insurance Agent. And I regularly post resources that I create that will help. Right now, I've got a free downloadable one called The Narrative. And then the video that I'll send to you is coaching on how to use that narrative and how it'll help with your with finding quotes. And I also post any updates, what I'm doing in the space to try and make a difference, who I've spoken to, just things of that nature to try and keep everybody in the loop on what's going on. So feel free to follow that page, and any progress that I make or that I know of that is being made, I'll share to that page. It's the easiest way to keep people informed.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I will definitely get that link in regards to the narrative template, the video. Guys, connect with Sam. Thank you so much also for being an advocate. You are not a child care provider. And sometimes we can feel alone, feeling like we're the only ones fighting for the industry. But thank you for the work that you're doing in raising this. I mean, I've been seeing you everywhere. So you are literally raising your voice about this. So thank you so much. And we appreciate all
You're
of
welcome.
you. Thank you, Dr. Ubiama Martin. Thank you, Tamara. She had to run, but we know we are all here together, and we need to hear from you as well. What questions do you have? But make sure you connect with Sam. And until next time, we are the Impact Podcast.
Yes, yes.
Have a good one, everyone.